Hey guys, Stealth here. Welcome to the War Room of this week. Hope you all had a great week last week, and especially of course with Rookie Night being on. Now, in case you didn't catch it, of course the replay is on my channel, so if you are a newer player and you want to see how exactly Rookie Night went down, you can still watch that on my channel. And I wanted to start off this War Room with another very big thank you to all of the trainers who helped me. Yes, they might not be official trainers, they might not be technical trainers, whatever. These are the guys who've been playing the game for quite a while and who have been able to help out the new guys. And not just that, it's also the TeamSpeak administration. We had, of course, Sparky Hayes, who you by now all know because of his wonderful Irish accent. He was our doorman, quote unquote, and he really helped everyone get onto the TeamSpeak, divide people onto rooms, and not just him, but everyone who helped me, very big thank you. And I got pretty much nothing but positive responses to Rookie Night. So I'm going to do another Rookie Night. It's going to be Saturday 11th of June. So that's in about a week and a half by now. And the timing I'm not exactly sure on. It's going to be a Saturday, so that should be more along the possibilities of everyone. Supposedly you're not at work or studying or whatever. But from what I've been reading in the comments, most colleges, most exams and stuff are done. But of course a separate video will follow on that with all of the details on the next Rookie Night. So, what have I been up to this week? Well, I completed the book Left of Bang, which I mentioned last week, and no, that's not some sort of sex novel, don't worry. Left of Bang is about combat profiling for Marines who are going over to Iraq and Afghanistan. Imagine a timeline where downright in the middle of the timeline you have an explosion. You have an incident, whether it's a suicide bomber, an IED, an attack of any kind. That is what is called the bang. Left of bang means being left on the timeline of the explosion or of the incident, and by doing that you want to stay away from the event. You want to try and prevent it. You want to act before it happens instead of being reactive. Really enjoyed it, and I gotta say it really helped me get more situationally aware. You can see this in a couple of different ways, really. Situational awareness, you could say that most people don't have it, because everyone is nowadays staring down at their cell phones. But for example, last week I headed over to Rotterdam for an event there, and as I was walking into a neighborhood that I hadn't been before, I was really checking out everything that was happening around me. So for example, what kind of cars do I see? Do I see a lot of cheap cars, or is it just pure high-end cars? BMWs, Mercedes, stuff like that. What kind of buildings are there? What kind of time were these buildings likely to be constructed? Because all of that will tell you something about the type of people who are likely to be there, or likely to live there, or likely to work there. And then again, with that you can make better predictions on their likely behavior. So that is really what Left of Bang teaches you. And what I just told you is, for example, geographics and atmospherics. It's 2 of the 6 domains that the book identifies as being very relevant and crucial to doing good identification and good combat profiling. Of course, combat profiling is not that applicable to me. I'm not actually going into conflict very often, except if you want to count Wargame, but I don't really see a lot of profiling going on there. But in the real world, it really has a very useful feature, and not because there are so many attacks in the Netherlands, quite the opposite. We have, as far as I know, not had a single terrorist attack since, when was that, 1963? When some terrorist hijacked a train? Not exactly sure on that date. And of course we get frequent reports of the country being at risk, the country being attacked by any kind of insiders, but so far the government seems to have done a pretty good job at making sure that just does not happen. Anyway, back to Left of Bang. There are 6 domains that Left of Bang considers crucial to doing good profiling. These are body language, which of course is my expertise outside of Wargame and other sort of games. Body language is everything from how you stand to how you pose, facial expressions, stuff like that. And it goes very well together with biometrics. What the hell is biometrics? It's a sort of fancy word for biology, basically. Because biometrics will mean what kind of biological changes are you seeing in the persons around you. This is not some sort of random mutation, we're not talking X-Men here. Biometrics means that what kind of behavioral things do you see physically in the other people? For example, are they blushing? Are they getting red with anger? Are they paling because they're afraid of something? The faster you can identify this, the faster you can identify whether something is going on, whether someone's at risk, whether someone feels at risk. So that goes really well with body language. Then you have an area which they call proxemics, which is technically part of body language, at least it is in my repertoire. Proxemic means how far are you apart from the next person, physically. So, for example, we have a couple of comfort zones, or a couple of, let's say, personal circles. You have the closest circle, which is your own intimate space. Nobody's allowed in there except for partners, husbands, wives, lovers, etc. That is just your personal intimate zone. Let's say stretching out to about 30 centimeters or about 12 to 15 inches. Next, you have the, let's say the friend zone. For better understanding, the friend zone is there for friends. Friends, close colleagues, people you really know well. They're allowed to touch you, they're not allowed to touch intimate parts, of course, but you wouldn't allow any kind of random stranger in there unless you really had to, like in public transportation. Because sometimes the trains or the subway can be so crowded that you just have no choice. Then you have another sphere, which is the social area. That's the next circle, and it stretches out to about, let's say, 90 centimeters or 40 to 45 inches away. And that is where basically most people will reside. People you don't really know well, maybe some more distant family, distant co-workers, your boss, for example. People like these are ones that you don't really want to have too close. And then everybody beyond that is going to be called the public sphere or the public circle. And that is where everybody else resides. So let's say you're talking to an audience, you're just passing people on the street, you don't want them to get very close. You want to keep them literally at arm's length so you can see what they're doing, what's going on, what you can expect, etc. It's going to keep you safe. So that's proxemics. Then the fourth domain is geographics. And this basically means what kind of geographical layout is there? What is the natural pattern that people are taking? You can see natural patterns being pretty much formed by people every day. The most practical example would be a forest, which does not start out with any paths, and after a while you're going to see people take the same path over and over and over again. Most people just do the same thing over and over again, whether it's wargame, whether it's life, whether it's going to college, whether it's going to school, whatever's your situation. There's very likely to be a set pattern for it, which means that you always do the same thing every day, and it's going to make you very predictable. And that is part of geographics because it ties right in there, in a sense that the more often you do something, the more you become familiar with the geographics, and the less you start to pay attention to your environment. Because, hey, you've been here before, you know what it's like, it's no different to you. But you can also take this in a much broader scope. Look, for example, at the highways, where the highways are, in a form or in a way, also geographics. In a sense that there's usually congestion or traffic jams on a number of specific geographical or a specific number of highways. Or at least here in the Netherlands, it's always the same shit. Which is one of the reasons why I'm very happy that I can work from home. Because otherwise you just get into the traffic jam in the morning and get out at night. Yeah, that, I don't know, to me it does not sound appealing. Anyway, the fifth domain is iconography, which is basically a fancy term for what kind of icons or symbols are people using to identify themselves. And you can think of this in pretty simple ways. You could go for uniforms. The police, in a way, wearing a uniform, is using a form of iconography to detail what kind of person they are or what group affiliation they have. But you could also take this in the sense of tattoos or graffiti on the walls. What kind of graffiti do you see? Does that mean that there's any kind of group claiming this area, maybe? And if so, what does that teach you? Is this an environment where you should or should not be? Or sometimes you don't have a choice, you just have an appointment on the other side of town and you may have to go through a lesser neighborhood. But most of the time you probably won't have this problem. And then finally, atmospherics. Every room, every situation, every area has its own atmosphere. You could, for example, take the... I'm not sure if you've seen this, you probably have. Those dark parking garages or dark gas stations where people do the killer clown pranks. That is what you would describe as a dangerous atmospheric. The atmosphere is dark, unpredictable, and it is very, very unclear what's going to happen, as you don't have good line of sight, you don't really know who's hiding where. That's what you would call bad atmospheres. Similarly, if you go to a mall and it's deserted, again, slightly less than positive atmospherics, because, again, there might be people there who are either not supposed to be there, or who are lurking, or whatever. We can also think of atmospherics in a different way, in a sense of what changes in the atmosphere. So let's say that you are, and this is straight from a book, this is a patrol that was patrolling, I believe, an area of Baghdad. They came upon a car which had two kids, and this was in the morning, so it was already about 40 degrees Celsius, or I think 120 Fahrenheit, I'm not too sure about the latter. Anyway, they saw a car with two kids in it, and of course, being the temperature being that high, it was just very, very unusual to see kids inside a car. So there's your first clue, like, okay, this is weird. Then they also had something else going on, which is that the car had all windows closed. There were no people on the streets, and people were shunning the car. They were very, very much staying away from the vehicle. One of the operators from the platoon asked his sergeant, "Sir, can I approach the vehicle to help out these kids?" And he said, "Absolutely not, pull back." Because he was sensing that there was something wrong. Something was just, I don't know, it didn't feel right. Because the atmospherics were wrong. It just didn't fit in, and sometimes stuff just, I don't know, it feels bad. And well enough, the platoon pulled back, and as they did, the vehicle exploded because of an IED. Had those guys actually approached, which was of course the exact intent, had they approached, the platoon would likely have been killed, if not heavily wounded. So there you have it. Those are the 6 domains, and I can probably talk on these for hours. I have been preparing new presentations to train people on these in my body language business. I'm just not sure who my target audience for that would be. I mean, I really, really love this stuff. Psychology, the learning about it, and it's mostly law enforcement and police, probably. So let's say law enforcement and military in that sense. But I just don't really know what other kind of people would be interested. So let me ask you guys, as, let's say, a bit of a market exploration test. Would you, as a subscriber, be interested in learning more about that? And if yes, would you consider taking some sort of class on it, or some sort of paid event? Let me know in the comments, because that's something that can really help me out, that kind of feedback. So, that was it for Left of Bang, and again, I can talk for hours on this, but I don't want to bore you too much with it. If you want to know more about it, let me know, and I'll go on about that in the next week's War Room. What else happened last week? Well, I reached 7,000 subscribers. Wow. Last time I checked, I'm at 7,158. I really got to 7,000 pretty quickly. And I'm not sure why, but I think it had to do with probably the combination of Rookie Night and the influx of new players. Because I noticed that when the Dutch DLC went live, a lot more people started subscribing to my channel, a lot more people signed up. Of course, we got a whole ton of new Wargame players, and I'm confident enough to say that I have the biggest Wargame channel on YouTube. So if you're going to go anywhere, you're probably going to encounter my channel if you go looking for YouTube videos on YouTube. If you go looking, yeah, right. If you go looking for, let's say, instructional videos, tutorials, or gameplay videos on YouTube, you're likely to end up at my place. So 7,000. And to watch the contrast between how my videos are right now and how I started out in August or September 2014, I decided to load up one of the earlier videos. It's still up here on YouTube, of course. I think the first one was on Robocraft, and then the second or the third one that I did, which was actually my first Wargame video, was probably some sort of Marines deck or a West German armor, I believe. Anyway, link to that's in the description down below. I was horrified. I was really, really horrified when I saw and mostly heard that first video. I mean, how could I have a voice that was so monotone back then? I remember going over to Reddit, the Reddit Wargame at some point, and people were asking who's your favorite YouTuber, and I was very surprised to read already back then, which is probably sometime last year, that people were saying, well, Stealth has really good material if you can bear that monotone voice. And I was like, wow, what? Really? Okay, I need to work on that. So I hope that you can really see the contrast between my videos back then and currently. Because I'd like to think that those have really, really improved. And that they are much more interesting to watch, that they are more, let's say, more, how should I put this? Let's say the commentary has improved. I'm not rambling as much as I did. And of course there's much more variation in my voice, which should make it easier and more interesting to learn and listen from it. So that's about the channel. What else have I been up to last week? Well, I had a very interesting talk with a career coach or business coach about my target audience, because it's something I've been struggling with for about a year, since I started out with my body language practice. And when I started out with this thing, I probably went over this probably a couple of times already. When I started out with the body language, I thought, okay, I need to find a target audience that really needs my product, that really needs to learn how to read body language quickly and accurately, which is going to help them at some point in their career or sometimes during their daily lives. So I thought of sales professionals. Now, these sales guys, especially the first couple of groups that I taught, those sales guys were in the business for 20, 25 years. And I just came in, had pretty much no sales experience, at least not in the sense that they did. I came in, and I saw these guys just looking at me with like, ugh, who's this? This 27-year-old rookie is supposed to teach me anything. Really? You think you're one of us? That's pretty much the atmosphere, talk about atmospherics, that's pretty much the atmosphere that I got from these guys. So I decided to stick with it, because I did know something that they don't know, or that they didn't know. The whole body language thing can really help out sales professionals who have not always been paying full attention to it. And if they apply it right, they can really get more sales. So I thought that I really had something useful to tell them. And unfortunately, I just wasn't always able to communicate it because they wouldn't give me the light of day since I didn't have any sales experience. So I thought, okay, maybe the sales guys aren't my ideal profile. Maybe I need to start helping people who are looking for a job. I did a bit of a marketing test on that a couple of months ago, where we sent out an email to a recruitment agency who's recruiting for the larger companies. And among the 50,000 recipients of that newsletter, none indicated any interest in learning on how to improve their body language to get better chances of being hired during a job interview. So I thought, okay, so maybe that's not them either. Then I hopped over to lawyers, see if lawyers might be my target audience. I cold called a couple of law firms, which, if you're not familiar with cold calling, is basically you make a list, let's say a couple of dozen law firms, and you just call them. And you say, hey, do you know how important it is to have great non-verbal appearance? To have the right contact with your clients? Do you know how much that can save you or how much that can gain you money? That was tough. That was really, really tough to do that. In the end, I got no clients out of that, or at least I thought so, because it turns out that eventually, last week, I got a call, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, forgot. Anyway, I got a call from one of those law firms. They said, yeah, you sent us a white paper, which is basically a fancy PDF, with about 10 pages of information, a couple of practical tips, etc. They said, you gave us this white paper, and we have a activities day for this law. It's not really a law firm, but let's call it a law firm. We have an activities day coming up. Would you be interested in doing a workshop for us? Because we think it's a very interesting material. So I thought, so maybe there is demand. Now at the same time, all the other law firms had not responded. So apparently there was no interest there. And again, I was pretty confused. Is this the right target audience? Because body language is so important to so many fields. But nobody seemed to be really willing to pay for what I have to offer. Sometimes I get a really large gig, a really well-paying assignment, but that just doesn't happen very often. And it was really, and pretty much still is, really depressing. So I talked to her, this career coach / business coach, and asked her, okay, what do you think I should do? Because I'm really stuck. I have no idea what to do. My money is running out, and seriously, it really still is. What do I do? And she said, well, who are the guys that you communicate best with? Who are the guys that you feel at home with? I said, well, I have this YouTube channel, and in about a year and a half, or let's say a year and 9 months by now, I grew that thing from 0 to 7,000 people. And she said, wow, okay, who are these? I said, well, they're mostly, let's say, 25 to 35-year-olds who are interested in wargame, which basically means they are interested in building strategical and tactical skills, and they're interested in the military. At least that's the way that I interpret you guys as subscribers. So she said, well, I think that should be your target audience. I thought, yeah, sure, but how do I combine that with the body language? She said, well, start asking the questions. What is that you need right now? What kind of area of your life would you like to improve? What kind of contact would you like to improve? Because that is what she pointed out. It all comes down to good communications. Good ways of making, basically, how to talk to people. She said that is what you seem to be really good at. And looking back at all the assignments that I did, I'd say, yeah, how could I have been so stupid and not get that? Because everything I've done so far is geared towards improving interpersonal communication. So, in flat English, how to build your people skills. That is something that I seem to be really good at. And as some of you have already pointed out, I seem to be really pleasant to listen to. Really quiet or really peaceful, neutral way of explaining stuff, while not making it boring, keeping it interesting, and just trying to transfer the info or the skills to you. So, here I am asking the question, what kind of area of your people skills would you like improvement in? Would you like to get training for a job interview? Do you need to do a presentation soon? Do you want to know more about the profiling thing? Do you find it hard to work with or to do networking? So networking events? All of that stuff would be really interesting and valuable feedback to me. So let me know in the comments. Anyway, that's it for the business part. Let's move on to the games, because I imagine that's why some of you guys are here. By now, up on my channel, I have Season 2 Episode 0 of the new XCOM playthrough. I decided to start up a new XCOM playthrough, and bloody hell, this is tough. The last XCOM playthrough was a cakewalk compared to this, and that's because I have a few mods installed. One of them is called A Better Advent. More on that in the other video. But this just makes everything so incredibly tough. Yesterday night I was recording quite a few episodes for this so that I can work on my actual business during the week. The amount of missions that I'm failing is atrocious. It's really, really bad. So, I hope that you're going to be enjoying that gameplay, because on the one hand it's it's tragic to watch. On the other hand, it's making for some really, really intense scenarios. Much, much more intense than the ones that you've seen before on the previous playthrough. So we got a new XCOM playthrough coming up. Of course, we'll also be continuing Stellaris, although I find that Stellaris is somehow getting drawn out. It seems to be taking forever. I don't particularly mind that, but there does not seem to be a lot of action going on. And I don't see an end to this game coming anytime soon. So I'll probably continue it, I'm just not sure what frequency, what rate. We'll just have to see what kind of videos I can come up with. Of course, there is also going to be new Wargame content, as per the usual, and I have a really exciting World of Warships replay coming up for you as well. And I gotta say, that's pretty much it for this week's War Room. Once again, thanks to all the trainers for helping out in the Rookie Night. I'm very, very glad you guys all enjoyed it. Someone even said Eugen should pay you for this. Yeah, maybe Eugen should be my target audience. Anyway, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. I hope you have a great week. Let me know if you have any questions, and please let me know what kind of training or what kind of people skills you'd like to build in your current stage of life, so that I can possibly learn something from that and adjust my target audience accordingly. Anyway, have a good week, and I'll see you soon for either the next War Room or the next videos. Cheers, guys.